Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to wait for another minute before just to get as many people in as possible. I think we are we good to go? Fine. Let's see. Okay. Well, I see some familiar faces, but good afternoon, everybody. I'm Adrian Fu of CBR Media. I would like to welcome you all to today's virtual press gathering featuring a 17-year-old racing sensation from the Philippines, Bianca Bustamante. As you all know, she's a professional racing driver competing in W Series Academy team. Started karting at the age of 5 and soon dominated as a multiple race and championship winner across Asia and the US. In 2021, she was the only Asian driver selected to try out at the FIA Girls on Track Scholarship Shootout in France. She has successfully made the transition from karting to Formula cars, securing a 2-year drive at the Academy team. This year, in her rookie season, Bianca scored her first points on her debut race in Miami with limited track experience, which is a testament to her natural pace and talent. So now Bianca arrives in Singapore as the W Series heads to the Asian legs of the season. And in some ways, this is a kind of a home race for her, given how close Singapore is to the Philippines. And Singapore is also one of the first overseas countries Bianca raced in during her karting years. So I think it brings wonderful memories back to the rising motorsport star. So without delay, Bianca, are you here? And how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Hi everyone, glad to see everyone back here again. I'm doing great. I'm here in Singapore right now, actually.
Yeah. How long have you been in Singapore, actually?
Well, I just arrived here about 3 days ago, straight off from Malaysia, where I did my test and with Black Hearts Racing in the F3 car. So everything's been good lately.
Yeah. And you were in the Philippines before arriving in Singapore, right? Like what were you doing there?
Well, it was summer break and I wanted to spend more time at home because I rarely get the opportunity this past few months. So I went back, spent time with family, refueled, refreshed, and just spent time to myself and really think about the whole thing, the whole race and everything. And now I'm feeling really good for this weekend. I mean, for the upcoming weekend. And I know that it's going to be a great race for us. And yeah, I'm feeling great.
You mentioned you'll be racing next weekend. So I guess we'll start by asking, two-thirds into your rookie season in W Series. How do you think your season is going so far?
Well, the season is I'd say it was a bit overwhelming. The recent events has been shocking and just lots of changes I had to go through and just like a roller coaster ride, really. Well, all the good and the bad. And of course, as everyone that's been following along, I've had my race in Miami, Budapest, France, Silverstone, and all these amazing circuits. And it's been amazing. It's been an experience for me. Everything has been fun and lots of learning, that's for sure. I've made great progress, and I know that greater things is going to come in our path. And I'm really looking forward to Singapore, particularly because it's the closest to a home race I'll get. So yeah, 2/3 of the season done, and I'm looking forward to the next part, which is now Singapore.
Right. Let me ask you, of all the race weekends that you've had so far, which was your favorite? Which was your high weekend, and which one was your low weekend?
I would say Miami, purely because it's my first, and Miami just gave me that feeling in my heart where everything was just like, even though I went through so much when I had so much difficulties to face, it was still like butterflies and like a fairy tale for me. Like that's when everything just started. And of course, I scored my first ever World Championship points in the W Series, first ever Filipina to do that. And that was, a very good feeling for me. Overall, that weekend was such a high. And of course, the low weekend, I would say, is Silverstone, purely because I wasn't able to extract my potential. I wasn't able to show my speed because of lack of practice. And, as every racing fan knows how difficult the Silverstone circuit is because of all the high speed to medium speed corners that really requires, practice, seat time, and experience. And unfortunately, I didn't have that. And we learned from that. I'm pretty sure coming back the following year, I'll be much better in Silverstone, and that's definitely a track that I want to drive again and be quick at and push myself.
Yeah, I actually I hear a lot of your fans talking about, you keep talking about Silverstone as one of the weekends that you feel like you could improve a lot more on. I think a lot of the common understanding is that high speed tracks usually require, I guess, sort of less on the braking, and so there's a lot less technical aspects to it. What's so actually, in general, high speed tracks, like what's the general challenge there? Is it still observing your braking points, or is it how you place your car, how you make that corner? What is that like?
That's definitely a misconception that most people see in like high speed corners, but actually it's those high speed corners where you're always on the limit, and one minor error or mistake and it can cost you to spin out or lose control of the car. In like the slow speed corners, if you make a mistake, you don't really lose much. Like you don't lose half a second just by braking earlier or braking slightly later or overrunning the corner. It's those high speed corners where the car is just barely hanging on. And Silverstone is a track like that where the car needs to be always on the limit to be quick at it. And being on the limit requires lots of experience and knowledge on the car. You need to know when it's about to snap. You need to know when you're about to lose it so you can control and correct it. And it's that experience and technique that I didn't have, especially in those high speed corners, purely because I've never had enough time in the car to learn more about it, to learn its limit. And overall, high speed corners is very technical because most of it is just pure gut. Like in low speed corners, it's easy to drive it. It's easy to brake late and to turn and to accelerate out. But in high speed corners, it's about carrying the minimum speed and making sure that you're always on power. And on power means you're basically turning into a corner with 200 kilometers per hour. And going to a corner at 200 kilometers per hour is where it requires lots of confidence as a racing driver. And unfortunately, during that weekend, I didn't have confidence. And I would say that I could have prepared better for the race as well. I mean, like, maybe I could have done a few more testing before it if budget allowed, or I could have done more simulator training. And overall, I know what I could have done better, and I know in myself where I can improve, and that's always a good thing because moving forwards, I know how to improve as a racing driver and how I could have maximized it a bit more, even with the disadvantage I had to face.
Yeah. Let's get into prep a little bit more, but let me start by asking, right? You transition from karts straight into Formula cars, and you basically just started, your training was basically your race weekends, right? Like, so what were some of the biggest lessons you learned as you went from karts to sort of Formula cars?
Yeah, that's one of the toughest bit that I had to face. Like it was sort of a trial and error for me. Like it's like learning everything and then while taking an exam. That's how it was for me. I had to learn through my failures, and unfortunately my failures were during the race. and that was something that I just really had to mentally overcome. Like, of course, I'm disappointed whenever I'm not in the points or not in the top 10, or if I'm not quick enough, or if I'm a second off. But then I always just say to myself that no one has been put through this much as I was put through. Like, people like normal racing drivers go through a series of testing, series of racing before they reach this sort of level of Formula 3. But for me, I didn't have that. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but I'm using it as sort of motivation that if I was chosen to be put in this path, then it means that I can overcome it. And like God would never put me through something that I can't face or I can't overcome. And that's something that I always say to myself. And even though sometimes it gets tough, coming straight off from karting and you're brought to this whole new world and you're expected to perform very well. I hate to disappoint, and I hate when I let people down, but I really do believe that this year is all about learning. Like now I've learned so much in the past 6 months. My whole life has changed, and I have you guys witnessing all of that. Like 3 days ago, I drove in the wets for the very first time. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's insane. Thinking about it, like people like Jamie, Emma Kimalainen, they've raced in the rain like, I don't know, 30, 50 times. And I've just experienced my first ever wet condition 2 days ago. And that's just funny thinking about it now. And I'm very glad that regardless of all those, all those lack of experiences, W Series still entrusted me to race and to be given this opportunity. So obviously I'm doing my best to.
Everything okay?
Sorry guys, I think I lost you there.
No, you're still here with us.
Okay, there. Sorry. So yeah, so I'm very grateful that W Series still allowed me to race and give me this 2-year deal. And I'm very thankful actually that I'll be coming back next year. So now I'm just taking everything in. I'm taking all the knowledge, all the bad, all the good, and I will contribute all of that to keep on pushing and to learn from it and use all of that next year. And next year I really will be pushing for more progress, for more pace. And there's a lot of me yet that I know that I haven't shown. Like obviously coming into this race, I want to show pace, I want to show progress, and that I will be doing the Singapore race. I really want to do well this race, and I hope that with all the training I've done, it will eventually result into that.
Yeah, a lot of physical preparation, right? Like, so I see all your videos, you're working out. And you do these sort of quite odd exercises. There was one where you're tied up by the neck or something like that.
Yes.
That I would never do at the gym. Like, can you talk to us, like, besides what we're all familiar with, right? Like, the treadmills and the lift weights and all that stuff. Like, what else? What kind of exercises, workouts you do that I think, people like me would never, never get to need to experience?
Well, yeah, those exercises we're doing were neck resistance training. So that's one thing that I've had to train lately a lot because of the G-force that I have to go through. Physically, your body's, sky's the limit. And I really do believe that. And I push myself every day. I want to better myself every day. But it's a bit tough, especially coming from karting that goes about 120 kilometers per hour. And then you transition to a Formula 3 car that goes about 260. So your body, it can't adapt as quickly. And that's one of the main things that I've been struggling with, purely because I didn't have enough seat time to progress and grow in an F4 car. I was strictly brought into F3. So my body has been adapting. I've been feeling a lot of changes. I'm only 17 as well. So my body normally is going through so much changes. And that's why I'm grateful that I have the right people teaching me and supporting me and coaching me to help with my fitness, and of course to grow and exercise the right parts that would help me become a better driver. And one of them is my neck. I've had to endure so much G-force lately that sometimes I wake up and I just have a stiff neck. Like I just can't move my neck anymore. And that's so funny. Like the amount of G-force that I have to go through is insane, honestly. Under braking and accelerating, it's tough. That's why now I learned all this workout that can help me with it. I mean, the neck resistance training and some extra workouts as well for the grip, forearm, biceps and triceps. Not your usual workouts that people do, but it's a workout that specifically target the muscles you need for driving. And that's why I really do think that fitness is very important, that to the point that I hate missing a day of training. I try to work out every day. Right after this press conference, I've actually got training scheduled in because I hate missing out training, because I know how important it is. And I've only realized that lately. The more I sweat in training, the less I cry in battle. And that's been very helpful. It's a very great tip that my coaches have been giving me, and it's effective. I see a big difference whenever I'm fit enough to handle the car, to push it and to extract every bit of it. And when you have the strength to do it, it actually helps you as well mentally, because whenever you're not fatigued, you think more thoroughly, you think better, you're always on your feet, and whenever fatigue comes in, you make poor decisions and everything. So yeah, fitness has been overall a very good training for me.
And I suppose, the mental game is just as important too,
That's
right? Like, so
important.
how do you just prepare yourself? And what do you train for actually? Is it better reaction times? Is it emotional management during the race, during a long race? What part of the mental game do you have to train up for?
Well, racing is such a mental game. I mean, so like, to be honest, really, I think as a 17-year-old, there's some times where I would say I'm not my mental fortitude isn't as strong as people like Jamie, who's 25, who's more mature, who thinks more precisely and rational. So for me, I think it's still a mental game. It's very tough. It's it's sometimes a bit too much, I would say. At times, there's moments where I really do feel like there's too much workload, or I'm feeling too much pressure. But at the same time, I get to do what I love, so it definitely eliminates all those worries that I have. Thankfully, with the help of psychologists that I've been in contact with, sports psychologists, like sports physio and everything, it helps me cope with mental stress or breakdowns or just overall pressure. Like right now, I'm going through so much pressure. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot that I've had to live up to, like especially now that I've been growing my brand, I've been growing my name, and especially in the Philippines, there's so many people in the Philippines that has been following me along, and of course I hate to disappoint them, and that's one of the things that I've need to deal with recently and lately. Whenever I would receive bad comments, or whenever I would get comments saying that my pace isn't there, I'm not driving good enough, and I always would just think to myself that they're only basing their comments on what they see, but not what they know about me. Like I'm pretty sure that most people that watch the W series don't know that it's my first year from my car. And that's I take that into account whenever I read those negative comments. And it helps a lot. But of course, as a 17-year-old, I can't help but be swayed and swoon into those negativity. Like I myself, even sometimes I doubt myself. I always think, oh, what if I'm really not quick enough for this? What if I'm not just cut out? Or what if I'm just not this? What if I'm not that? And recently, of course, that's been less because I've been focusing more on myself rather than what the others have been doing, and that helps a lot, mentally. So stress, pressure, there as an athlete or as a young athlete, it's hard to deal with. But if you have the right people surrounding you and supporting you and pushing you forward, it just becomes lighter, and everything becomes easier.
Excellent. Okay, well, now to the business end of our, I guess, our conversation. So you're now in Singapore.
Yes.
The circuit is next week. The race is next weekend. Have you raced in this circuit? Are you aware of it? What's your gut feeling about the circuit?
Funny story, actually. So when I was younger, I think it was back in 2017. Yeah, I was back in 2017 when I had the opportunity to represent Philippines and race around the Marina Bay circuit, but in go-karts, and we only drove at the last corner of the track. So we used the last corner and put a kart track around it in a street circuit layout. And so I was able to drive in there, and that was my earliest memory of like Marina Bay circuit. Like I was there. We even used the podium of the F1 circuit as well. That was really cool, and that was yeah. So it's really great actually that I'm back here now, because it's closer to family, and it's somewhere that I've grown up racing. Like in Asia, there's few countries that hosts races internationally, and one of them is Singapore. That's why I spent most of my childhood coming back and forth here, and which means a lot. and most of my friends are here. Actually, my team boss and my team is based here in Singapore, my old kart team, and I owe them everything. I owe them the career that I have now because, auto and racing, they're my kart team back in 2019 when I was in my junior karting, and they helped me, they sponsored me, they gave me a free drive, even though we cannot afford it. They still took a shot on me because they knew that one day I would eventually make it here. So that's amazing. And also I've recently been meeting a few friends of mine, that I've met from karting, and everyone from Philippines is also coming here to Singapore, my friends and family. And for the first time ever, my parents are coming to Singapore to watch me race. And this is the first time they're gonna come because they can't afford a ticket because it's so expensive to fly to Europe. So they're finally gonna watch me race for the first time, and I think that's one of the motivations that I have coming to Singapore, and why I'm feeling good about the race, because I know that my parents will be there, and it's the first time they'll see me race, and I know that they're gonna be so proud and so happy. So I want to do a good job for them.
Yeah. What are your goals? What are your goals for the weekend?
Well, I always want to finish in the top 10. The more points, the better. I will still want to be the top performing rookie. Like right now, I'm still P14, which means I'm the highest, scoring rookie. So I want to keep that till the end of the year. I want to keep progressing, and I want to fight. I want to fight up. I want to fight with the top running drivers, and I want to show my grit. I want to show my potential. And even though that I'm secured till next year, till 2023, I want to show them that I do deserve it. Like, I'm not just getting it because I'm an academy driver. I want to be there next year because I purely deserve to be there.
Excellent. And I guess just one final question. Singapore, like the full track, you don't really have that much experience in that. But as you mentioned, you were in Sepang for testing last week. Were there parts of the Sepang track? What was it? Was it deliberate that you chose Sepang as the location for a testing track? And I know that you were getting coach advice from a former F1 driver. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was amazing. I'm so very, very grateful. Whenever just like opportunities come and I get to test, I'm always just so grateful. I'm like, thank God, because everyone knows how expensive it can get, how expensive testing is. And so whenever I get an opportunity, I'm just like, I'm gonna maximize this. I'm gonna ask all the questions. I'm gonna drive as many laps as I can, and I did. That's why the test was, I would say, successful. And of course, with the help of a great team like Black Arts Racing, I really do think they're a very competitive team that's based here in Asia. That's very rare. I would say they're one of the few teams that runs the Formula Regional car. And, to be based in Sepang as well, that's amazing because of how close it is here in Asia. And, I was coached by Alex Young, the only Malaysian F1 driver. I mean, honestly, I was very overwhelmed and shocked that he was gonna be coaching me because everyone knows how very successful he is. I mean, he made it. He made it to F1, even though it was very rare. Like during the time when he made it to F1, it was very rare for a driver that's coming from Asia to make it, and he did. And that was amazing. And I really look up to him a lot. And he gave some very good advice, very great tips, and he was a great coach and a great role model. And that's particularly why the test was successful, because I got the right coaching and the right people backing me. I did my quali sim, my race run, and they really did push me a lot. It's really amazing to be in a team that believes in you and supports you. And regardless whether you're a girl or a boy and something, even then, like even if I was a girl, they still pushed me and treated me as if I was just a driver. There wasn't no special treatment. I was still pushed to my limits, and that's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. I did so many laps to the point that I've got blisters all over my fingers, and it's an amazing feeling. And I had a great team. Aside from Alex, I've got my engineer with me, Han. amazing engineer. He engineers in the LMP2, and overall, it's an amazing to have an Asian team backing me up during that test, because I've only ever raced with the European team with the W Series. So to have the Asian team, I feel like we had a bit more dynamic, more than what I would normally have in the W Series, because coming from Asia, the culture is the same, and I know that personally they're rooting for me. So it's great. I love the environment. I love the whole energy, and put in some great time, some great laps, and slowly but surely we got there. I understood the technique, I learned, I progressed, and I showed great speed. And as a bonus, I got to drive in the wet. I was coached by Alex Singh in the wet. So that's fantastic. That's also why I did quite well actually when I drove in the wet. I wish I could share with you guys the on board, but I still don't have it yet. So it's an amazing lap. I just felt so alive, and I do hope that I get to test with him more.
Excellent, Essen Senna. Okay, so I think I'll open up the floor to members of the media to ask you some questions. So to our journalist friends here, I think you guys know this, but just if you could just click on the reaction icon and then followed by raise hand. That way we can start lining up some questions for you guys. I think the first one is Luisa Morales. Go ahead, Luisa.
Hi, Bianca. Luisa here. Hope you're doing well already in Singapore. But yeah, you're obviously back in action. You're very busy now again, but you did have a couple of weeks rest here in the Philippines. Can you talk about how that helped you, I guess, recharge? I know that you were able to attend also a lot of racing events here in the country, even a live race viewing of a race weekend for F1, if I remember correctly. How was the whole experience for you?
I mean, it's amazing. I haven't been home for that long in a while. I think that was the first time this year that I was home for more than 2 weeks, and it was a great feeling. And for me, I'm a very proud speaker of mental health. I really do think that athletes need to prioritize that. We're more than just athletes, we're human as well. And being human means you get tired, you lose energy. And I took this time to refresh and refuel. And I took a bit of time off. I would say like 3 days off from media, from training, and just spent time with my family. It was my dad's birthday. I celebrated it with him, and we had a party, and it was great. I got to see my family, and I was homesick for the longest time, and so obviously being homesick and away from family kind of also hurt me a little, mentally, because I was so far away and being only 17. So yeah, I definitely do think that because of that, I'm definitely in a better situation now. I'm happier, I'm energized, and I'm happy to be back racing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Luisa. And then next up, we've got Marty Bautista from TV5. Go ahead, Marty.
Hi, Bianca. It's so good to see you again. Just 3 questions for you from me. The first one is, could you talk about your experience? Of course, I saw it everywhere. I saw the photos online everywhere of meeting Lewis Hamilton. How was that for you?
When you said Lewis Hamilton, the memories just flashed back into my head. Oh man, that was just amazing. It was a great moment. It's like everything that I've been working towards for is finally being recognized. And not only by someone, it's by 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. And it's everyone's work, really. I mean, W Series has been working very, very hard to give us this opportunity, to give us this platform, and people finally recognize us, recognize our talent, and recognize the series. So that's very amazing. I met Lewis, I got to shake his hand. He gave us like really, really good tips, and I got to speak him in for a bit, and he's very supportive of the whole movement of the whole women in motorsport. And I see him as a great role model. Growing up, I would always notice, like he was one of the very few people that had to really work his way up. It wasn't just because his dad was a racing driver. It wasn't because he was rich. It was because he dedicated his time. He dedicated everything. His parents sacrificed a lot of things for him to get there. And I kind of resonate with him in that sense, where my parents were, we're from a very middle class family, and we had to give up a lot of things. My dad had to move away to study to work 3 jobs just for my racing. And that's that's one of the main reasons why I look up to Lewis. He had to go through the same thing in life, and all his hard work paid off, and now he's just a symbol, and he gets to inspire a lot of people because of it, and I'm one of those people.
Could you share to us a few of the tips or advice that Lewis was able to give you that resonated to you after meeting him?
Well, I think it's one of them. One of the things he said was that, like I myself, I'm very young, and there's like a long way to go. And at times where you feel demotivated or down, just think to yourself that are you doing what you're doing? Where if it like, are you doing what you're doing that would eventually lead you to where you want to be in a few years? And I think that really resonated with me. Like, I'm doing all of this now because I want to be somewhere in a few years from now. I want to be where I am. I want to be where my goal is. And I want to reach my Everest. And that's why I'm working very, very hard. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I reach my goals and my dreams. And he had to go through the same thing in life. He was also once a junior driver, and he gave us tips, how to drive the car, as well as he also once drove the similar car in a GP3. And he was very humble, actually. Like we told him that like we barely get any track time, and he was like, man, you guys should get more drag time and everything. And I was like, and then we were saying that it's very hard for us to adapt and everything and this and that. And he was saying that, it would eventually all pay off. And I'm pretty sure it will.
Thanks for that, Bianca. Now, Bianca, the last time I saw you, I also got the chance to meet your parents. With the Singapore Grand Prix being so close to home, will they have the chance to watch you race live?
Yes, they're finally gonna be able to for the first time.
How do you feel about that? Are you nervous also because your dad he races as well? So is there a little bit of pressure?
Well, like my parents, they're very humble people. Like for them, me being here is great enough. Like they never would have thought that I would eventually make it here. Like no, not in a million years, because everyone knows how expensive it is. And I guess from an early age, I've had to accept that if in the future I was able to be here now, it wouldn't be because I was rich. It was because I worked very hard, and it was because I showed potential. And that thinking helped me progress as well. I didn't take things for granted because things weren't served to me in a silver platter. And that's one of the very few things that my dad taught me, or my parents taught me. So they taught me to be grateful. They taught me to be appreciative of everything, of every opportunity I was given. And so I know that whatever the outcome, whatever the result, they will always be proud of me. And I want to do good for them, and I want to make them proud. So hopefully I will.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Marty. I think next up is Gab Ferreras of Sports Corner. Go ahead, Gab.
Good afternoon, Bianca.
Good afternoon as well.
All right, I have 2 questions to Bianca as well, because our last conversation was in just last month because of our Sports on Air. What were the challenges of competing in a country near our home, and especially doing fitness, strengthening your mental techniques, and of course doing pre-race trials and testing?
Well, the challenges I've had to face, I'm very glad actually that this time, my race was closer to home. I didn't have to go through jet lag. There wasn't no time difference, and there wasn't a culture difference, I would say. Like that's one of the things that I struggle as well whenever I travel abroad. It's because the culture is so different. They put us from one country to another, and it's just a bit overwhelming. It's hard to adjust to a new place every time. But here in Singapore, I've been here numerous times. I've grown up racing here, so I know this place like the back of my hand, and that definitely calms me. That calms me knowing that I've got people here that are supporting me through thick and thin. and that helps me focus on, you know, on myself, on racing, and on my training and everything else. You know, like training wise, I've I've been working with a very good coach, and even though, you know, Pit Fit, I still train with Pit Fit whenever I'm in America, but unfortunately I'm not in America, so I'm here, so I'm training with a coach of mine instead, and it's been very good. You know, I've been training every day, working very, very hard. And you know, testing wise, it's easier for me to test as well because I'm here in Asia, and we know a lot of people. We've got good people, good connection, and that makes things a lot easier. So yeah, being here is definitely an advantage.
Let's second and last question on my end. There was a pep talk on your first days in Singapore, and one of the attendees is our follower of Sports Corner PH, Janelle Crabe, also a fellow Carter, who is also currently based in Singapore to compete and to watch you in your upcoming race in the Singapore Grand Prix. What were your reactions seeing a couple of young Filipinos going into motorsports internationally, just like Janelle?
I mean, like, I really do think that, you know, motorsport is not very well presented or talked about or spoken about here in Asia. Like we have very few racing drivers, you know, and I really do think if it's just given the exposure and the exposure that it deserves, I really do think that we'd have more competitive and more competent racing drivers. I'm very fortunate enough to have found motorsport and my love at a very young age because of my dad. He was a carter. But there are kids out there that don't have, you know, the same background that I do. You know, they like, if we just give more exposure and more initiative to motorsport, I really do think that more people get interested in it. And, you know, and girls like Bella, and, you know, she's a carter here from Singapore, and she's making her way up to juniors, and it's amazing for me to seeing that progress. And, you know, I did an event with Inspiring Girls a few days back here in Singapore, and I was talking at ITE College East, and I was talking to girls that are studying STEM, you know, engineering, sports management, and you know, I get to talk about motorsport, and you know, talking about motorsport is not something that's widely normal and talked about, especially here in Asia. So it's really great that I get to share my experiences and I get to share my stories, and people acknowledge that and hear it, and you know, it's just growing it's been growing massively, motorsport, and I'm really glad that we get to have around here in Asia and Singapore, and I get to somehow be an ambassador for it, and show that, you know, show interest in motorsport. Because when I did that talk, you know, a lot of girls talked to me after the event, and they said that they want to get into motorsport, they want to pursue engineering and work with cars, they want to do sports management, and they want to do this, they want to be a racing driver, and they're glad that there's someone out there that is doing the same things they want to pursue, because that gives them a path, and that just helps them overall. And it's really amazing for me, and to have that feeling that I get to inspire girls to pursue the motorsport path.
Thank you very much, Bianca. Looking forward for the Singapore Grand Prix, and enjoy the race. I'll go back to the moderator.
Thank you, Gab. Next up, we've got Jonathan Lim from burnpavement.com. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you. Hi, Bianca. Yeah, I'm John. Burn Pavement. I'm a Singaporean car enthusiast website. I've got a couple of questions. I'll start with the first one. So I understand that you raced you karted in Singapore at KF1. I assume since you were auto-ing, you were under Paul. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh yeah. FYI, he's moved over to Jurong now as a new kart track there, in case you are thinking of visiting him. But yes,
Arena karting.
I would like to ask, karting arena, correct. I would like to ask how racing here compares to racing back home in the Philippines, as well as when you moved abroad, like the standard of driving and the other races.
Yeah, so, you know, like 6 months ago, I was only karting here in Asia, really. and one of them is in Singapore and Philippines as well. And the past 6 months, my whole life is basically turned upside up because of the things that I've had to experience. And one of them is racing abroad and international and in Europe. And if there's one major difference, I would say is I think it's overall just the support and because motorsport in per se UK, UK is basically the home of motorsport, and everyone there is interested in motorsport. They have this whole community, British Motorsport Academy. They have all of this, and it helps spread awareness in racing. That's why people are so aware of it. And not only that, but UK has so many talented female racing drivers because they promote women in motorsport. They promote racing. They give all this, they give all these events. They give all these talks, and they give all these opportunities for young women to get to know motorsport. And I think that's one of the main difference that I would say compared to racing here in Asia, where there's not much recognition. Like even just in the Philippines, I really do believe that we could do a better job in promoting it, and we have been doing it. Like I see a major difference from when I first started, doing all these interviews and events 6 months back. Like no one knew racing, and I'm glad now that people are interested more. And recently I went to this F1 live viewing event, and I got to see all this F1 fans in the Philippines, and it's just amazing how much it's been growing. I got to speak with the head of F1 Club Philippines, Phil, and he said that motorsport in Asia has grown massively, and more people are getting interested. And it's nice that even the media is supporting it. That's why I would like to thank you guys for for all the media work that you guys put into for motorsport and for shedding light into it. And yeah, the more recognition, the more help we can get. Like for example, young racing drivers, the more recognition we can give them, the more support they can get from sponsors and everything.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think next up we've got Luke Pereira from Car Buyer.
Oh, hey, Bianca, nice to meet you. And congratulations on becoming the first Filipino W Series driver. I just got a couple of questions for you. The first one would be, what is your fondest memory of Singapore?
I think if I could date back the most funnest memory I have of Singapore, I think I would have to go back to 2013, my first ever race here in Singapore. It was, I think, my second or first international race. I think it was my second international race. So I went here to Singapore. We didn't realize how expensive taxi hotel is because it was really expensive, to the point that we were so out of budget that I had to take the train every day to reach the racetrack. So I would have to wake up like 4 a.m. We'd take the train, an hour train, to get into the arena karting track, because that was the only track back then in Singapore. So we'd have to take the train back then to get to the track, and I would have to sleep at the bench because we'd get there around 5:30, and I was so sleepy, so I'd take my time to nap there before I drive. And I think that was just the funnest memory I had, because everything was so pure, everything was so raw. Like I was there purely for racing. We didn't have the money to go out and eat out or like enjoy or like shopping, and it's those moments that really humbles me so much. And looking back to I went from taking a train to the track to flying to Europe and racing and experiencing all these cool things. So it's nice looking back to it.
Cool. Okay, how have you been prepping for next week's races, and how's it been like in Singapore so far? Has a lot changed since like you mentioned, from that time compared to now?
Yeah, a lot has changed. I personally, I went through so much change. To like all the medias that were interviewing me back then, I was like this young 16-year-old that was so camera shy. I was stuttering. I didn't know how to answer questions. I was so afraid. And, I went through so much change. And thinking back to like 2019, 2018, when I was still racing here in Singapore regularly, I was such a kid. I was like 13, 14 back then. And coming back now as 17, obviously I've matured a lot. And at the same time, I've also seen lots of changes in Singapore itself. Like the kart track is so much better, and there's a lot of things has improved. And Singapore has always been a nice country, anyways. Like everything's so advanced here. But yeah, a lot has changed, and definitely for the better.
Cool. Okay, do you have any advice for any other female motorsports enthusiasts who actually look up to you and want to emulate the success that you actually have achieved?
Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit. I was told numerous times to dream lower or dream smaller, so you won't fail. And thankfully, I didn't take that advice. So now I'm advising you to dream as high as you can, dream as big as you can, but make sure you put in the effort, the discipline, and you put in the hard work to make sure you can achieve it. Like dreams will remain dreams if you don't act on it. So you got to make it into reality, and you got to dedicate. If you really love something, if you really find something that you love and you want to pursue, then go on.
Okay, thank you. That's very, very inspiring. Okay, last question. What is your favorite local dish in Singapore?
Man, wow, too tough. I got satay, I got chicken rice, bak kut teh. I don't know. I like dim sum as well. Oh my, too tough, too tough.
If you have to pick one, which one would it be?
You know what? I'd say because I would always take the train to the circuit. So in the train, there's always this like food court. There's like this food court called Kopitiam, and it has everything. So I'd say just Kopitiam because it has everything.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. I know we're running out of time a little bit, but I do know that we've got Dessa Tating next. And then after that, I know Louisa has a couple more questions, and also Jonathan. So Dessa first, and we'll try to get through the questions as quickly as we can. Go ahead, Dessa.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Bianca. I'm Dessa from Plus Network. So this is going to be very quick. You were telling us about your physical trainings and also your mental trainings, but what is your greatest motivation in participating or winning in this competition?
Well, I keep on motivating myself, but by saying that God would never put me through something that I cannot overcome, and that has always solidified my mental strength, because I know that with the help of everyone that's supporting me and has been supporting me, I'm able to achieve anything I can never dream of and I can never think of. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the support. And even though times get rough sometimes, I just keep on fighting. It's just one bad day doesn't define your whole life. So yeah.
Yes, and last question. What's the first thing that you want to do after this competition?
First thing I want to do?
Yes.
Get milk tea. I've been cutting out sugar for a bit.
Please.
Forget milk tea.
Okay, thank you, Bianca. We're rooting for you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dessa. And I think it's Louisa next.
Yeah. Hi, Bianca. Just to follow up the last time that we talked about, it's been confirmed that, Singapore will be a night race for you. What key adjustments are you looking to make in order to make this race memorable? And as we've said as well, it's a street circuit. You scored your last points on a street circuit. What are your expectations?
Well, it's given me an excuse to stay up later. So because the race is at night, I need to switch my time zone a little. I need to wake up later. Like I'd say, I'd have to wake up around 10 instead of waking up at 6. So I have an excuse to stay up. So yeah, that's one of the things that I've actually been working on, because I've been so used to it, like sleeping at 9 p.m. and waking up at 6. Now I have to switch everything. I have to sleep later and then wake up later. So that's one of the things that I've been trying to work on. And obviously street circuit. I've always loved street circuit because it's always been everything's so precise with the street circuit. You can't make any smallest bit of mistakes because it can cost you a lot. And that's just an amazing feeling, going over the limit, just like dancing around the circuit, inch, like going from inch to an inch to a wall. It's just an amazing feeling. And I'm so happy that we actually went to Singapore instead of Japan. Sorry, not that I'm being biased, but I do love Singapore. So I'm really glad, but yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Bianca, and good luck.
Great. Thank you, Louisa. And then finally, I think we've got Jonathan.
Hi, all right, just one more. With the W series, I want to ask, and I apologize if this may be a bit sensitive, but do you feel that, what are your thoughts on FIA needing to start the W series? Like, is there any sense of female drivers that aren't able to make it in motorsports if there wasn't this avenue, or do you feel that it's still overall a force for the greater good?
Sorry, may you repeat that?
I would like to get your thoughts on FIA starting a W series, because I understand that there's some people who feel that it kind of belittles female drivers a little bit because there's this implication that female drivers can't make it into motorsport without W series. Do you feel how do you feel on that? Like, do you agree or disagree with that kind of notion?
Well, W series, it's regardless of male or woman, it's given us platform to exceed in the sport without having to worry about financial problems, financial issues. Not everyone is given a free seat to race all across Europe, all across the world for free. And that just eliminates everything else, and aside from that, they're giving us a platform to showcase our skills and be noticed by everyone else. They put us right beside on the pinnacle of motorsport. So it's given women exposure, and they're doing a great job. For Lewis Hamilton to acknowledge it, and for the media to start supporting it, more people are watching it. I think it was in Silverstone where we reached around 1 million people that watched the race. 1 million people watching and supporting all these women, and regardless of who makes it or who doesn't, it's the fact that all this is run by a woman. Catherine Bonnier runs W Series, and she has this initiative, and she's giving women, a platform, not just racing drivers actually, but engineers, mechanics, crew, managers, and everyone. It's run by women, and I think that's such a great initiative actually, because now you see more people progressing into the motorsport world. Like you see Jamie Chadwick after winning W Series for 2 years in a row. She's now testing. She's now actually in Indianapolis testing Indy Lights with Andretti Motorsport, and she's gotten so much recognition because of W Series, because they do such a great job of promoting it, women in motorsport. And recently there was an FIA F3 test with the W Series drivers of Abby Pulling and Nuria Marti, and these girls do deserve the recognition they get. And I think W Series is doing a great job of showcasing.
All right, thank you very much. So I guess you could just summarize it as long as you guys are out there hitting the tarmac, getting in front of the cameras, and just being out there doing the racing, there's no bad thing. Can't be a bad thing. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to all our media friends, and thank you, Bianca, for being here today. This completes our virtual press gathering today. Good luck, Bianca, as you battle the streets of Singapore. I'm sure we're all behind you, supporting you all the way. Which leads me to say thank you very much again to all the journalists here. I wish you a great day wherever you are. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you guys so much.